So this is Ray with A Life by Design. It's November 28th, 5 months since the kitchen nightmare started. I just thought I'd give an update. I'm just back from almost a week of vacation, which I really needed. I ended up, after having a very slow summer, I ended up working about 12 weeks worth of work in about 8 weeks. And I was just, because what was going on I was dealing with the kitchen stuff that was going on, had other personal things going on. So I was having to work really late, like every day. I wasn't able to take any time off. My last day off was like September 16th. So it was a full 2 months without a single day off. And I was just tired. So I owe people messages and I'm backed up on a lot of things, but I just emotionally, mentally, I could not get back on the computer for a few days. So trying to get caught up, but I've been working on the house. So I just thought I'd start off with a little bit of an Alma update. Alma is really settling into her routine. She lives here now. I mean, there's no question that this is where she lives, and she's happy to be here with me. I'm not really allowed to approach her when she's just right like that. But when new toy I gave her, she won't play with me with it, but she likes it on her own. But as soon as I sit down on the couch, she'll come and join with me, and she'll even cuddle and snuggle on the couch. So that's progress. I'm still trying to get her to understand that she's allowed to come up to me at other points in the house, so then I don't always have to be on the couch to be with her. Like, I wouldn't mind if she came and rubbed herself up against me when I'm at my desk and stuff like that. But she's like Bonita. She's following me everywhere, like absolutely following me. Like in French we say a Shane Bush, a pocket dog. So if I'm working, she'll be in the office by the door with me, and during the day she'll just be following me. And at night, I prefer not to sleep with her in the bed or in the bedroom. And by the morning, she'll be like meowing at the door, like, "Where are you? Where are you?" So very, very glad she's here. She's just been an amazing little companion. She's a lot of fun. She's funny. She's just, just absolutely the perfect cat for me right now. I'm absolutely thrilled. So that's Alma. So I'm settling into the kitchen, and this is gonna be a very honest video because I haven't really tidied up this morning. I eventually do want to do a really good, kitchen, showing off the kitchen when it's completely installed and everything. But that's not where we are yet. But I am settled in enough that I'm able to cook and get things done, even though I still don't have this cabinetry here. So I got some storage things here that I just kind of left there. I've got some stuff up there, but it's kind of coming together. I mean, this is usually mostly clear. I can actually cook. And then I'm loving the double sink. I'm sorry I didn't do my dishes this morning, but this is just like literally from last night. I'm not going to worry about it too much. Lots of room over here to drain things. Loving the counters. Look at how clean this looks with the edging like this. There's no grout lines. It's just one flat surface, just clean. It's just fantastic. Yeah, it's a little bit darker than I would have liked, but the counters are great. The sink is great. Loving my stove area over here. Pardon my sausagey frying pan from this morning, but I love having this space here. I love this hanging thing here. This is driving me insane, because this looks really, really bad. I got a quote to have a piece of stainless steel made to fit in the back here, and it was ridiculous. It was thousands of pesos. So I said, I'm gonna look for a commercial solution. And I found something on Amazon for only 400 pesos, and it's black. And I think it's just gonna fit perfectly over these little bump outs here, and then it'll just kind of cover that gap. I might have to pull the stove out like a half an inch still. And I think that'll cover the back, and then it's just gonna look finished, and it'll look really nice. Speaking of pulling the stove out, let's just talk about the floor. The floor is not gonna last, unfortunately. It's gorgeous, but it's not. It's so fragile. It's moving my cart, cracked the floor over there, and it's not staining because there is a repellent on it. Like, we can actually lift up anything like this. You can see there's this mark there, but that's gonna come up. But yeah, so. Unfortunately, what happened with the floor, and I'm not like super mad about that, it's still problematic even after 4 times doing it, the humidity just completely killed us in terms of the finishing coat. So what's going to happen is not going to be like in the next few months, because I'm just burnt out from all of this, right? But I'm thinking not this coming February, like the next February after the house is paid off. And what I'll do is I will pull everything back out of the kitchen, get a professional polisher with a machine to come in and just give a coat of the floor top polish, and then I'm going to epoxy it, and then it'll last forever. So that it just sucks. I'm going to have to do that, but we weren't able to get it because the humidity is refusing to drop this year. Usually at this time of year, there's no humidity, and this is like March still. So the floor is just not cooperating in that sense, but it feels really good underfoot. It feels I just like how it feels. I like how it looks. It's just not, unfortunately, it's a bit fragile, for a kitchen floor. But anyway, this area here is coming together. I got this cart top, this little shelf unit yesterday to put over the stove, over the oven. I think I might have to just bring it up a notch just to make sure, because I did a pizza yesterday and it was getting a little bit warm underneath. So I think if I lift it just that little bit more, but it's really nice having that little extra storage up there. My brand new rice cooker, I finally got myself one of these. I've been wanting one for a long time. I got a deal on Buen Fin. So eventually all of this will be cleared off, and then this is like a prep space. This is where I like to do like meat and things that where I really need to be able to disinfect. And underneath here, I just got to do some more sorting, but I'm waiting. I got to figure out what I'm going to do over there before I finish sorting out over here. I'm not convinced I'm keeping the cart, for example. It sticks out too much. Maybe if I got rid of this part, it might not stick out so much, but it's not working as much as I would have liked. Love my little cubbies. This is starting to fill up really nicely. I've got some plans for underneath here. Like this is not going to stay with that little metal container. I've got a plan for the bottom here to finish that up. So there's a few things that I still need to be worked on to be able to say, the kitchen's completely done. I'm ready to show it off. Namely, I need the storage over here. So let's go into the Javier portion of this video, because I've done I don't know how many videos talking about what's going on with Javier, and I just don't seem to want to post them. But I think every time I say I'm ready to do it, I'm not. But before I do that, sorry, let me just keep you hanging. I also have my pantry all sorted, and it's just gorgeous. I've got these containers that just fit perfectly. They're airtight. Anything that doesn't fit, because these are fairly small containers, just enough that I can use up the item before it goes bad in this heat and this humidity, and then the overflow goes in the fridge. So this is the first time since I've been here in 5 years that I feel like I can actually find everything in my pantry. It's beautiful, and the fridge is just, finally the fridge is just feeling like I can actually open up the fridge and not be embarrassed by it. Okay, so Javier, so let's do this. So I don't even know the timeline anymore because the dates are running together. So I'm just gonna, I can't even say it's been this many weeks or this many months. It's just been forever. It became very clear that they had taken my money and applied it to another project, and that there was no money to pay people to work for me, and that I was gonna be out a lot of money. That was very, very clear to me. So my first thing was to get myself back into the kitchen. The very last contractor they sent me was a good guy. His name is Alejandro. And I said, I'm going to just work with Alejandro directly, and I'm going to make sure he gets paid, and we're going to get the kitchen minus the storage put in. So he did the floor, he did the counters, he got the sink in, but I had to pay again for the sink. I wasn't able to replace my water heater, which I really need a new water heater. It's not even like a want at this point. I need a new water heater. So I have to figure this out in the next couple of months. So that was my first thing, was I've got to get back into this kitchen, and then after that I can maybe focus. And then the next step was I needed to get back what I could from Javier in terms of, because I basically paid him 71,000 pesos, and I had like almost nothing to show for 71,000 pesos. Basically what I had to show was I had the electricity was done, I had the little knee wall, and they fixed this wall for me. And that was basically all I had to show for them. Like it was absolutely ridiculous. The biggest value was in that cabinetry, and I knew the cabinetry existed to a point, and it wasn't anywhere near done, but I knew like they had done all the, what is it in English? All the boxes were done. And I thought if I can at least recuperate, get back at least the wood for another carpenter to finish, it's not, not gonna be a total loss on my end. So when I was approaching this, trying to figure out how I'm gonna deal with this guy, I knew that suing him wasn't gonna work because I wasn't gonna get any money back out of him. He's got no money, so you can't, there's no point suing. And I also made so many mistakes because I had such a good reference for these folks. I did everything wrong with this transaction. Like I started off, everything was in English, which already like a huge strike if I was try to sue. So that wasn't really going to work. So I thought, well, let's see what I can get out of this guy without having to do any legal channels. How can I play this game? So my first thing was evaluate this guy. First of all, is he a bad person or is he just somebody who got in over his head? And my initial thought was he's just a good guy who got in over his head. He's embarrassed. He thinks he's going to get caught up and he's just trying to postpone things until he gets caught up so that, he can save face. But then as this stretched out, he was really lying to me, and it was beyond, ahorita culture, and it was way, way beyond any of that. It was like pure lies where he would tell me, oh, your cabinetry's in a truck, and then the truck would never show up, and then he would ignore me for days and then say, oh, well, they got caught or whatever. They got a delay or something, and then they're going to come next week. And so it got to a point where all of a sudden there was no confidence left. And at that point, to me, that was like 100%. It was fraud at this point. So I had to figure out, well, first of all, is this guy dangerous? And I made the determination that he wasn't dangerous. At least he was not dangerous to me. So once that was that, I sat down and I looked at like what kind of cards. I basically treated it like a poker game. And I said, what kind of cards do I have to play with this guy? And I realized I had a couple of aces up my sleeve to manipulate him and to convince him that the best thing would be to deliver the dang cabinetry, even if it wasn't finished. So when I realized the relationships had completely broken down, I couldn't trust him. I was swearing at him at this point, which was advice from Mexican friends telling me, you've got to stop acting like a lady. And you've got to you've got to command his respect. So you got to talk to him at his level. So finally one day when he did this thing where, oh, I'm going to deliver the cabinetry, and then it doesn't show up, I finally had enough. And I pulled out my first ace. And that was enough to remind him, like to show him who has the actual control in the relationship. Because that's all this was he thought, well, she's just a stupid foreigner with deep pockets. If I just push her off enough, she'll just go away and I won't have to deal with her anymore. And I wanted to show him that, no, I wasn't going to just let him walk away with all that money. He made a huge mistake at the beginning. He made me pay into his daughter's bank account. So one night when I just had enough of him, not showing up, and I knew that I needed to regain control. I messaged him really late one night and I said, I had a really good relationship with my father. I don't know what your relationship is like with your daughter, but I would feel betrayed to know that my father implicated me in something like this. And so I got a very angry, page-long message the next day that basically summed up, says, keep my daughter's name out of your mouth, treat me with respect, etc. And I went back to him and I said, don't talk to me about respect. And the next time you're going to do this to somebody, don't use your daughter's bank account. And that kind of reopened the negotiations or the communications for a little bit. But it just kept going on, and he just kept on promising me things. But it was just after, I believe it was just after this exchange that I finally got the proof of life of the cabinets, that I knew for 100% sure, because I'd heard a lot of people talking about the cabinets, but I hadn't seen them. I finally got a photo. So I knew there was wood, so I knew there was something worth fighting for. So this was going on and on and on and on. It was horrendous. It was absolutely horrendous. And he just kept on doing this to me, that he would say, I'm going to show up, and then nothing was happening. I was starting to suspect that he had subcontracted out the cabinetry and that maybe he owed the subcontractor money. And fast forward, that's exactly what it was. My cabinets were being held hostage. So finally, I decided to try to get somebody else involved. I have a really good guy with a truck that I know. This guy he moves furniture for me. He comes here and clears out trash. And I called him up and I said, this is what's going on with Javier. Would you mind dealing with him and maybe arranging to go and pick up the cabinets, and then I will pay you to deliver them? And he's like, oh yeah. He says, don't worry, I am going to talk to this guy for you. And so I contacted Javier, told him, Gio's going to contact you about the cabinets. I know you don't want anybody to know where you are. Maybe you can meet on the street corner somewhere and we can get this done. And Javier was like, yeah. You talk to Gio. And then he was a no-show at the meetup. And then this was really interesting because the next day I saw Gio, like I think it was like that same day or whatever, Gio came to my house to clear out. There was some trash left from the renovation, but I will say there was a bit of trash left that I needed to get hauled out, but Alejandro had taken care of the bulk of it for me, so there's no problem with that. But Gio comes with his guys and they do a real good cleanup, so that was really nice. And then Gio said, yeah, he says, I talked to Javier. He says, I'm gonna have one more talk with him and see what happens. Well, the next day, Javier calls me and he's literally sobbing. He's like literally sobbing. And I'm like, what the hell? Is he drunk? It's like early in the morning. Like, what's going on? He says, just give me some more time. But at this point, I have no sympathy left for this guy. I have no sympathy in the sense of like, I don't want to destroy this guy, which I think a lot what some people would do. I just want, as much to lose as little as possible, but I don't necessarily want to destroy him. And he says, please keep my daughter out of this. He says, I'm working on stuff. He says, I'll have your cabinetry. But then it just started, it looked really good, but then he was a no-show again that week. So at this point, it was done. I was just like, okay, this needs to come to a head. And I think the biggest thing is he thinks he's got control because I don't have his photo and I don't know where he is. So I'm not in a position to sue. I'm not in a position to go to, consumer protection. I'm not really in a position to do much because I don't have that basic information. So at this point, I pulled out my next ace, which was Arlindo. If you'll remember from the beginning, Arlindo was the guy who introduced me to Javier, and I had not talked to Arlindo in months. I just figured, get one person out of this equation, and I'm going to keep Arlindo in the back, So finally, I contact Arlindo and I said, you owe me. Where is Javier? Like, help me find Javier. And Arlindo said, yes. He says, I agree. I will help you figure out where Javier is. And he also did not know where he was. But he was able, between Arlindo and then a couple of contractors, I was able to narrow it down to a possibility of a workshop in the Santa Lucia part of Mérida, which is an area of Mérida that I know. And I was able to narrow it down to a couple of blocks. And I went down there on a Friday afternoon, walked into this workshop. It was the guys working. I said, is Javier here? And they're like, well, no, he's not here. He's out. Do you want us to call him? And I said, no. I said, I'll call him myself. And I reached out to Javier and I said, I'm at your workshop right now. I think it would be a really good idea to come and talk to me face to face. And then I was just walking around that warehouse taking photos of valuables because by this point, I should probably back up. By this point, I had contacted a private detective. And I had not hired the private detective, but the private detective gave me a quote and he says, for this much, he says, I can find him. I've got more than enough to find this guy. And I can show up at his workshop with 2 guys in a van and empty out all the valuables, sell all the valuables and get you back your money and then get money to whatever's left over will go to people that he owes money to, contractors and stuff. So he says, that's an option. But that's not how I want to be solving my problems, with the guys coming in with the baseball bats. But I'm in the workshop and the guys were like looking at me and they're like, you got to go, ma'am. You can't be walking through here. And I'm like, are you kidding? I own everything in this workshop. This guy owes me enough money that I own everything in this workshop. And I was very surprised. Javier came and met me at the workshop. I was shocked. He pulled up. I got his photo. I got a photo of his license plate. And he said to me, come back to my house. We can talk. And I'm like, I'm not going anywhere with you. Are you kidding? Like I'm going to disappear. No way. So I just looked at him. I looked him right in the eye and I said, this is ending today. I want my cabinets out in whatever shape they are in. I want my cabinets tonight by 8:00. Or at that point, your photo, your daughter's information, because I've got your daughter's information at this point. I had the daughter's information. So I found her on Google or on Facebook. I said, all of that is going to the media and it's also going on all over social media. We're done. I said, I'm done negotiating with you. You're not negotiating in good faith. I have made you really good offers because I said, I've been willing to walk away from a lot of money to buy the piece. Telling him all of this. And I said, that's it. We're done. 8:00 tonight. 7:00 that night, he calls me up and he says, there's no way I can't get this done tonight, but the guys will be there with your cabinets at 11 tomorrow morning. And he says, please just hold off on pressing the button. And I said, well, your deadline was 8:00 tonight, not 11 tomorrow morning. So I'm going to hold off. I'm going to keep your daughter out of it still, but you're on my Instagram and on my Twitter at least at a minimum, in my Facebook, at a minimum tonight. That's just how it is. And he's like a very meek, like, okay. Well, believe it or not, the next morning, I get a delivery at 11 o'clock of cabinets, and they all look like this, completely unfinished. But I have all of the boxes of the cabinets, and so I have all of the boxes. I have some doors. I have all the pieces for the drawers, but nothing's finished. There's like no veneer around the edges because it's like a cedar plywood. So the material's fine. It's the material that I paid for, but it's not anywhere near complete. Like considering how much he's been lying to me about everything being done, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like, it's not anywhere near what I was willing to settle for. So I gave him a couple of days because he had said, he had delivered everything on the Saturday, and he says, Monday I'm sending you guys to install, which I'm like, to install? We're not even anywhere near ready to install, but I'm going to see what happens. And of course nobody showed up. And at that point, I had to get angry with him again. And I said, you delivered me this as BS, what this looks like. I said, at this point, I'm going for my full 71,000 pesos. And he gets back to me and he's like, well, don't threaten me. And I said, well, he says, don't threaten me. I don't like it. And I said, what am I threatening you about? I'm being very, kind and letting you know where I'm going with this. Most people would have just already gone with the police and everything. And he says, oh, as if you're going to go to the police. And I said, I already did it in March. I know how to go and press charges against somebody. I'm not scared of doing that. And that kind of shut him up again. So at this point, I don't even remember the next sequence of events. But eventually, I get it. He says, I've got guys on the way right now to come and install the cabinets. And I'm like, okay, whatever. We'll see what happens. And these guys show up, and they were here for 2 days. And I'm still I'm still trying to figure out what happened because I still have cabinets in my living room. But these guys show up, and they set up a painting studio in my driveway, and they finished off all the cabinets for me. Like they sanded and stained and sealed with wax, and everything is absolutely gorgeous. It's still not complete, but I'm already a step higher than I was expecting from him. And so he comes back and he says, the guys are going to get everything finished for you, including the missing doors, install all the hardware, knobs, etc. You're going to be missing, I'm not putting in you're going to be missing the glass panels for the glass doors. There's going to be a light fixture. I'm not doing that. And I'm not doing any shelves inside. That's how you're going to get it. And he says, that's like my final offer of what I'm going to give you. And I said to him, if you will do that, I will accept. I'm willing to just drop this. That's already more than I expected. And also, he also sent me the first thing he sent me was somebody to come in and do all the veneer all the way around the edges. And then he sent me the guys. So I was already pretty pleased. This is, and nobody could believe that I got this far with this guy. Especially my Mexican friends were like, holy cow, you really understood how to deal with this particular guy. It wouldn't work with everybody, ultimatums and threats and swearing at him and all of that. It might not have worked with somebody else. It might have been very dangerous with somebody else, but I read this situation perfectly. So last week the guys came, as I said, they spent 2 days, and then they left with the drawers to assemble them in the workshop, finish all the doors that are missing, and they were supposed to come back last week, and they didn't. Car trouble apparently. Whatever, but at this point, they bought themselves some time because I knew that they were working at the workshop. So even though there was no progress here, there was progress going on at the workshop. So Javier messaged me today, and he says the guys will be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock to finish, which I'm not convinced they're going to finish tomorrow, but they're probably going to get pretty close, I think. So I think this is going to end a lot better than I expected. And also, so once everything's in, I've got Alejandro is on standby to do the lighting fixture, which I don't think is going to be very expensive. His labor is going to be a bit more expensive because he's not like a subcontractor here. So I'm paying the big boss the big bucks to do that. So he might be a little bit expensive, but whatever. He's got a carpenter who's going to do shelves for me. And while I got the carpenter giving me a quote, I'm also going to have him give me a quote to do basically a door for underneath there. Is I'm gonna have like a piece of wood brought across that I can just pull out. So I have the storage, like a hidden storage. It's not for daily use, but it'll be finished. So I figure I might as well do that if I'm gonna get a carpenter. And then the only other thing that's gonna be missing, and this was never in the original quote, I was always expecting to pay extra money, is the countertop. Because I said to them, I said, don't bother finishing it off because this is not gonna be adequate. Even if they, try to do some work on it, it's not gonna work as a cooking top. So I am gonna wait a little bit and I'm gonna try to decide. I think I've got my heart set on a piece of sandstone or a piece of marble, but I'm gonna wait and just get everything in. And that's not the first priority. I mean, I could live with the counter for like this for a while. Not a big deal. It'll get scratched, it'll get whatever, and then I'll get the nice piece of stone. So that's where we are with this. So I am gaining faith back that maybe it won't be as bad. And then Javier's been talking. He says, "Oh, I'm going to start paying you back money." He says, "I'm going to give you back $10,000 in cash, which would have been your boiler and your sink." But he says, "I'm going to do it like maybe 1,000 pesos a month until you're paid off or whatever." And I honestly don't believe that that's going to happen. It would be really nice. And I'm not going to tell him that I'm just going to drop it. I'm just going to say, I would really appreciate if you do that. But that's going to be like a bonus. That's just going to, I need for my own self, my own peace of mind. I just need to get kind of over this and just have it done and just be able to move on. But I am incredibly impressed with how I have managed this situation because I got it done. I got the cabinets, even though it's been like 5 months and I was told, 2.5 weeks or, under a month basically. So I'm absolutely amazed that I made this happen. And I was going to do a whole post about how I dealt with Javier, like with the timeline and everything. And I'm just, to be honest, I'm so over this. I've been living with it for 5 months. I think this is more than enough information. It just goes to show, just been here long enough that I understand the culture. That I knew that it wasn't a cultural thing. It was not, because I had some people who were telling me, "Oh, it's ahorita culture. You just gotta be patient." And I said, we've gone way beyond that. Like I've never struggled with the ahorita culture. If he had been honest with me and said, 3 months ago, I've got some shit going on. I've got major problems. I owe people money. He says, "I have a plan. I'm working my plan. Can you give me 2 months? And I'm going to give you updates regularly, maybe show you photos or whatever, and work together." And it would have been fine. It would have been absolutely fine. I would have just sat tight. But it was very, very stressful. He made me waste a lot of time. I had a lot of time off, and I could have been out traveling or, just actually relaxing. But no, and I lost so much sleep over this that it was not good. It was really, really bad. And I'm really pleased how I managed it, that I was able to keep the control and resolve it, and I didn't destroy him. And then the other thing is, so I've got the cabinetry, which would have been a 35,000 peso value, which I'm probably going to get maybe 30 out of the 35, which is fine. And then he left a whole bunch of tools. He actually had the audacity to ask me about his tools, which I told him I know nothing about them. But he left me a ladder, he left me a whole bunch of stuff. I've had estimates of anywhere from 7,000 to 10,000 pesos worth of tools that he left. Especially the ladder, it's the big thing. It's a tall ladder. So I'm keeping all of that. I'm not going to feel guilty about that. That's just my money that's back. So in theory, I'm still about 20,000 pesos, about $1,000 US in the hole, based on my original budget. And the fact is, I will be very honest and say I am happy with how my kitchen looks. It's what I was expecting it to look like, but I was expecting it to look like this for, 40,000 pesos, maybe 50,000 pesos, not for the nearly 120 that I'm in the hole right now. So that's really, really frustrating because I ended up with what I wanted, but I overpaid for it in terms of having to do things multiple times. But I'm happy with it. It's looking good for me. I'm happy with how it looks. It just needs some little finishing touches. As I said, I'm gonna get some edging to clear off these edges right there that don't look very nice. It just doesn't look very finished. So I'm gonna work on that. I got a little bit of work here, maybe put a little bit of caulking to fill this in and just make this look a little bit nicer. Just little things just like that, just to make sure that it just looks a little bit more polished. But I also know once I'm completely moved in, once I've got the cabinetry in, got the shelves, it's gonna look so much less, there's gonna be so much less clutter, and it's gonna be easy to just come in and clean, and I think it'll look a lot better in that sense. But anyway, I'm really pleased with my space. The stove is the little wall is a huge upgrade, and then the sink, which I can't believe I'm actually showing this, but I'm actually gonna show it. But yeah, the sink is just absolutely amazing. It doesn't leak. The counter is level, so when there's water that splashes, it just it just stays where it is. And then imagine all of this is going to go, the KitchenAid's going to have its own spot on the new counter. The Vitamix is going to have its spot on the counter. My waffle maker is going to have a spot, and I think my cat's been walking on this, which is crazy. I don't know how she got up here. I have no idea how she would have gotten up here. But yeah, you can see a cat paw there, so I'm going to have to make sure she's... I close this door during the night, but during the day it looks like she's been coming up here. We've caught her a few times, and I understood why she was up here the other day. She was up here was because this was the only open window that she could go and sit by. But anyway, I'm gonna have to. That's why I really like having the door on the kitchen, so then I can. Speaking of her, very elegant. Says she likes to follow me. And I don't know if anybody's noticed that the camera is a little bit different. I got a new phone, which was way overdue. My last phone was a 10R, and it was very obsolete. I was really struggling with it in terms of, I would order an Uber and the phone would overheat while trying to track, and then it would crash, and then I would be stranded. And the camera wasn't very good. And I was able to take advantage, quote unquote. I got an increase on my credit card, and on my Mexican credit card, that would, the increase was equivalent to the amount of the phone, which was very convenient. And I was able, with iShop, I was able to get months without interest payments. So I was able to finance the phone basically with no interest. So I said, I would have paid cash if I'd had to, but that made it a lot easier to just go ahead and get the, this is the Pro Max, the 14 Pro Max. And also they gave me 5,000 pesos for my old phone. So that was 20%. I basically got the Pro Max for 20% off and then financed. So that just made me feel like I actually live here for the first time. That just be able to take advantage of things like that. So this is the first time I've ever had the nicest iPhone that exists. And let me tell you, it's gorgeous. And they're really, 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 really back ordered. So I said to them, I said, I don't care. I don't want the gold one, which was probably which was the least popular, I think. But I said, if you can get me a black one, that would be great, because the purple was the one that was the most popular. And so they ordered me the black one. It took a good 5 weeks. And they said to me that people who had ordered the purple ahead of me, ordering the black one, were still waiting for the purple one. So if I insisted on having the color that I wanted, I would still be waiting for my phone. So I'm really glad that I just went with the black, which is absolutely fine. It's a neutral color. The back is actually more like a dark gray, which is I really like anyway. And I just was able to put any case on it. Didn't care about my 10R. I really wanted to show the natural color, so I was on these clear cases that were always yellowing. So now I just have a nice. So anyways, and I really like the big size, which is not nearly as big as I expected. So I'm doing a lot of cat videos, obviously, because meow. But I mean, look at the detail on this thing. It's crazy. I had to put her food bowl in a moat because we've had problems with these giant ants coming in and trying to steal her food. So, isn't she pretty? All right, I think that catches you up. There's a lot of blah, blah, blah. But it's not like anybody listens to these things anyway, and I'm just too tired to write a blog post. But I figure if anybody who is interested, they're welcome to listen to all the blah, 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 and then they get the scoop. I can tell from comments and emails that I get who doesn't bother listening to these, but to be honest, I don't care. I don't make any money off the blogging. It's more for me, for my own edification, my own memories and stuff. So Yeah. Oh yeah, and then guys, the only other things I need to clear out this thing and declutter and reorganize, make it easier to find stuff. But waiting again. Once I have all the shelving in here and the drawers, I think it'll be. It'll really. I think just having the bank of drawers all the way across is going to really change things. This is like my spices are going to be more accessible. There's a lot of things that are going to go into these drawers. So, all right, I'll be back eventually with a tour of the whole space.